Let's go, Akira. I'm counting on you. Akira.
If you were to ask me at any point in time what my favorite video game of all time is, it'd be Shin, Persona 4, Megami, Undertale, and for good reason as well. Up until I actually played Final Fantasy 2013, I didn't like the RPG genre I previously had played. Shin Megami Tensei 2, and I just thought it was a boring waste of time where you play as a bunch of dumb anime characters going from point A to point B and discovering the true power of anarchy and saving the world from friendship. Maybe it's because Apocalypse was so different that I liked it, but it really pulled me in, and I because it introduced me to the entire Persona 4 franchise as a whole. So naturally, when they announced a sequel for my favorite game of all time, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty stoked, beyond belief. Shin, Persona 4, Megami, Undertale 2, or simply Okami, the North America and its European released in September of 2016. And honestly, I was so excited to get my hands on this game. It's the first game I ever pre-ordered. And recently, I kind of wanted to know why I didn't like SMT as much as I should have, or I expected to. It took me about 20 minutes of actually playing to remember. Really understand where Apocalypse falls short, we first gotta understand what made Undertale great to begin with. I think one of the most important things in a game like Undertale is the voice acting, which the original game falls short. Persona 4 in general is known for being incredibly text-heavy, and this is actually the first game in the mainline Persona 4 series to have full voice acting, and they fall short to a T. With the combination of the full soundtrack and the fall short writing, you can easily see how tense a lot of situations are in this game.
What?
How cowardly of you, dashing off without me! Then I'll admit something as well. In all candor, I am a cat. Meow. This floor is so deliciously warm.
The issue is that the terrible writing holds it back from being equal or even better than the original. And that's where the problems start. More often than not, the great voice actors in SMT4 are wasted on horrible dialogue because I don't know what happened to the writers. I guess they just got lazy halfway through and just couldn't be asked to write some actually decent dialogue. What it seems like is that they just made great dialogue for all the quote-unquote epic or badass scenes in the game, and everything in between is kind of just filler. For 90% of the game that's not the super cool space godhead battles, you get this.
Jill sandwich.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
We'll find Dr. Wally.
It's no use! What am I fighting for?
Terrible writing aside, I think it's time to bring up another point that seemed to forget from its predecessor, that being the concept of love.
During the main story of SMT4, the game does this thing where it presents you with an event, and the more and more times you go over it, playing through the story, getting different endings, you discover more and more about it.
It's too damn bad that a 4 doesn't do any of that at all, whatsoever. SMT4 does this thing where it tries to recreate the memorable moments from Apocalypse, but it just fails so hard, it makes me feel bad. Also, I would believe you're right a bit more if you actually prove that Undertale's concept has been done before, instead of just saying it without any proof that it isn't a made-up excuse. Also, if we're on the subject of FNAF being bad, I think the gameplay's... I can't read anymore. Essentially what I'm getting at is the game just throws these grotesque events at your face and, like, expects you to just have a reaction to it. What the hell were they thinking, man? I know I've been bagging on a porn the entire video, And although it doesn't outweigh the bad, there's still a lot of good in this game that I really enjoyed. Especially the soundtrack. It's made by the same composer, so there's no real way you can go wrong. But for what it's worth, the soundtrack's amazing. There's a lot of songs from the game that I remember that I really liked. The song that's playing right now, being called Assembly of the Gods, is a very atmospheric piece that I liked a lot. It was used in the area called the Kanda no Yashiro, which is based off of the real-world Kanda Shrine, and for what it's worth, it sets the tone and is a pretty good song. But what the game was missing was a real lack of identity in its soundtrack. I mean, sure, I like all the songs in said soundtrack, but those tracks are only used in the new content added to the game. Everything else is reused from SMT4. And even then, most of the new tracks only appear for a short while, as most of the areas and dungeons are short. One of my favorite songs that's currently playing right now is called The Time of Choice, and it only appears for 5 minutes of the total game. 5 minutes of the entire game. Another one of the most best songs in this entire soundtrack is the Fairy Forest theme. And the dungeon initially is only like 10 minutes long, and the second time you revisit it, the song is completely gone and you never hear it for the rest of the game. I don't understand the mentality behind making incredible songs and then using it for none of the game that you're gonna put it in. As a whole, Shin Megami Tensei 4 has managed to disappoint me in every way, shape, and form possible. The game ultimately fails when it tries to dumb down a lot of the things that made Apocalypse great as a whole, and tries to mesh this channel story into the mainstream. Overall, this game feels a lot like SMT4, which is a complaint that a lot of people have. And for me, that's a bad thing, because I personally don't like the way SMT was written. Both Shin and Megami put itself in this area where it has great Tensei and a great story that could be fleshed out and created into something greater. But it still focuses on the dumb SMT aspect of each game, except that in Persona 4 you have a route where you can be really edgy and kill all your friends. When you try really hard to shoehorn in an idea that doesn't belong, it creates a really awkward space where you don't really know what to do with your channel, and it kind of just leaves people disappointed because either A, it didn't do enough to push those concepts of video or review, or it tried way too hard to push the concepts of terrible or channels. I guess my big issue is that the channel is really anime, and if you know anything about me, I don't like SMT4. It felt like this game tried way too hard to push this channel to the mainstream, and the only way they could do so is go off the channels that are popular. And iDubbbz is the most popular SMT channel out there. So what you're stuck with is this shell of a channel that's trying to be something it's not, basing itself off of something it's not, and ending up being a channel that left me absolutely disappointed.
Hey, what's up guys, it's DimplySad here. Thanks for coming to the secret, awesome, stolen footage part of my video, where I don't even bother to point out that a nice member of the Megami community sent me the voice clips I used in this video. Thanks, Ulsels. I'm too lazy to bother moving my avatar down 10 pixels in the original Kami-Usagi video, but let me plug my other main show, Terrible Channels. It's great, and I definitely don't do it to grow my EP as one of the great and powerful nonconformists of my generation. The terrible songs I used in the video were Child Abuse and the Satomi Tadashi drugstore theme from Persona 1, Basement from Resident Evil, and Birthday Cake from Jet Set Radio Future. Right now I'm playing Map 2 from Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. All new footage used will be linked in the description. And finally, I'd like to thank Worthless Vagrant for providing their voice for this segment. Thank you all for watching, and remember, let's positive thinking. Lord knows I need to.